Alright, hi everyone. I'm going to be responding to Jorge Salazar Santizo's debate, where he argued that the United Nations is effective regarding political violence and human rights abuses. So Jorge started out his argument by saying that the UN is effective because so many of these countries rely on humanitarian aid. While I don't disagree with that, yes, there are so many countries that rely on UN aid to function as any sort of independent nation. There are still extreme injustices that are happening, especially in Myanmar with the Rohingya Muslims, the Uyghur people in China, as well as in Sudan. I would also add that it's a historical systemic problem with the UN when they weren't able to prevent genocide in Rwanda in the 90s or in Bosnia. So I think that while I do agree with his point that these countries rely on UN aid, it's not doing enough to prevent these human rights abuses as well as political violence. In addition, Jorge brought up the fact that the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, while he thinks that there should be some reforms that happen, is a good thing. I generally disagree with this because the point I think that he was trying to make was that it ensures countries from taking any sort of, you know, action that might be deemed not acceptable, when I think really what the P5 member states are doing is preventing any real action to prevent the human rights abuses that are occurring, because in every situation, no matter who the actors are, they have an interest in some sort of aspect of the abuses that are going on in other countries. For example, in Myanmar, China would veto anything that came across the table for a human rights resolution. So I think that while Jorge did argue, I think a little bit against his argument when he said that the Security Council needs to be reformed in order for there to be any sort of significant human rights legislation to pass. I agree with that. I don't think that until the Human Rights Council and the Security Council sees any sort of reform, we'll see any meaningful progress towards any country not vetoing a bill that would allow these human rights abuses to be addressed head on. So Jorge, I think you made some good points. However, I do just generally disagree with the overall argument, just based on the fact of looking at the history of the UN and as well as what's going on today. Even though they send out so much aid, we still have these massive injustices occurring.